begin with a word of prayer.
Lass uns mit einem Gebet anfangen.
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
Dear Heavenly Father,
Herr, danke, dass du uns einen neuen Tag des Lebens schenkst.
Lord, thank you that you grant us a new day of life.
Danke, Herr, dass wir noch in dieser ruhigen Zeit dein Wort studieren dürfen.
And thank you that we can still in this peaceful time study your word.
Bitte hilf uns, dieses Privileg auch heute Morgen wahrzunehmen,
And please help us that we would realize this privilege this morning.
dass wir auch hörende Ohren haben und sehende Augen.
That we would have hearing ears and seeing eyes.
Bitte, Herr, segne Bruder Mark und die Übersetzung.
Please bless Brother Mark and the translation.
Und bitte hilf, dass doch dein Wort, Herr, diesen tiefen Eindruck auf unserem Herzen hinterlässt, zu dem du es sendest.
And please help that your word would make the right impression upon our hearts, because you sent it.
Bitte segne auch alle, die zuschauen.
And bless also all those that watch.
Im Namen Jesu, Amen.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, turn in your Bibles to Revelation 9.
Geht in euren Bibeln zur Offenbarung 9.
Okay, so we briefly looked at this a few days ago.
Vor ein paar Tagen haben wir uns das angeschaut. Ein bisschen.
Verse 1
Vers 1.
it says, And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. So, where did we put this, and why?
Wo haben wir das hingesetzt und warum?
Final review, because this will Satan is cast out.
Yes,
In der finalen Untersuchung, weil dort wird Satan heruntergeworfen.
Okay, so this right here is the cross, right?
Das hier ist das Kreuz.
And what is the cross?
Und was ist das Kreuz?
It's the curse, right?
Das ist auch der Fluch.
And it's where, if you could just go to Revelation 12,
Geht zur Offenbarung 12,
verse 7.
Offenbarung 12, Vers 7.
It says, And there was war in heaven, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was the place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out unto the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. Right?
Bis Vers 10.
So, Satan is cast out right here, right?
Satan wird hier herausgeworfen.
He's this star that falls from heaven, right?
Ist dieser Stern, der vom Himmel fällt.
And he brings 1/3 of the heavenly angels with him, right?
Und nimmt ein Drittel der himmlischen Engel mit sich.
Oh, okay, and he's this, when he comes down, he's cast into the pit.
Wenn
Right.
herunterkommt, dann wird in die Grube geworfen.
And when he's put in that pit, he saw these lions that are going to devour those people that are thrown into that lion's den, right?
Und wenn in die Grube geworfen wird, dann ist diese Löwen, die jetzt diese Leute verzehren wird, die in die Löwengrube geworfen werden.
Okay, and that was in, I just go to Daniel 6.
Und geht nochmal zu Daniel 6.
In verse 24.
In Vers 24.
It says, and the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel. What were they doing?
Was haben sie getan?
Right, what did we just read in Revelation 12?
Sie haben Daniel angeklagt und was haben wir gerade in Offenbarung 12 gelesen?
The accuser was cast down.
Yes, the accuser of our brethren was cast down, which accused them before God day and night.
Dass
Right?
der Verkläger der Brüder heruntergeworfen wurde, der die Brüder Tag und Nacht angeklagt hat.
And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives. So them, their children, and their wives is a fulfillment of what?
Sie, ihre Kinder und ihre Frauen, wovon ist das eine Erfüllung?
It's like we just forget these things already. Sorry?
Ezekiel.
No, it's not a fulfillment of Ezekiel 9.
Isaiah 13.
How, Ezekiel 9 is the destruction of Jerusalem. This is dealing with Babylon.
Also Ezekiel 9 ist ja die Zerstörung von Jerusalem, aber das hier spricht über Babylon.
What did you say, Jennifer?
Isaiah.
Isaiah 13.
Das
Okay.
ist von
So,
Jesaja
go
13.
to Isaiah 13.
Geht zu Jesaja 13.
This is the punishment by the Medes and the Persians.
Das ist die Bestrafung durch die Meder und Perser.
It says, their children also shall be dashed to pieces, verse 16, sorry.
Vers 16.
Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes, their houses shall be spoiled and their wives ravished. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb, their eyes shall not spare children. Okay, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. So, what do we see linked there?
Was können wir sehen, was damit verbunden ist?
What's, at this point, in Daniel 6, what are they cast into?
In Daniel 6, wohin werden sie geworfen?
Right, and what happens to them when they're cast into the lion's den?
In die Löwengrube. Und was geschieht mit ihnen, wenn sie in die Löwengrube geworfen werden?
Sorry?
Gedevoured.
Yes, who gets devoured?
Wer wird verzehrt?
What's written here, the wise, children, men, old, young and old, right?
Was hier geschrieben steht, die Frauen, Kinder, jung und alt.
So, from verses 16 to 18 is an illustration of the lion's den, right?
Verse 16 bis 18 ist eine Darstellung der Löwengrube.
And verse 19, what does verse 19 mark it?
Und was markiert Vers 19?
Fire and brimstone, thank you, right?
Feuer und Schwefel.
So, go back to Revelation 9,
Gehen wir zurück zu Offenbarung 9,
and verse 17.
Vers 17.
It says, and thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. What do we see in this verse?
Was können wir in diesem Vers sehen?
Fire and brimstone in connection with
The lions, thank you, right?
Feuer und Schwefel in Verbindung mit den Löwen.
Right? So, when the stars get cast into the earth, it represents this fire and brimstone coming down, right?
Wenn die Sterne auf die Erde geworfen werden, dann stellt es Feuer und Schwefel dar, das heruntergeworfen
Okay,
wird.
just go to Revelation 8, the chapter before.
Geht zur Offenbarung 8, das Kapitel zuvor.
Verse 4.
Vers 4.
It says, and the smoke of the incense which came up with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hands. When are your prayers ascending up?
Wann steigen deine Gebete auf?
Just think about what we've just been studying. When are your prayers ascending up?
Denkt daran, was wir studiert haben, wann steigen eure Gebete auf?
When you're sighing and crying day and night,
Wenn
right?
du Tag und Nacht seufzt und klagst.
When the accuser of the brethren is accusing you, right?
Wenn der Verkläger der Brüder dich anklagt.
And then verse 5.
Vers 5.
And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire off the altar and cast it to the earth. What's he cast into the earth?
Was wirft er auf die Erde?
The fire and the brimstone, right?
Das Feuer und der Schwefel.
And that's him being cast into the earth. Go back to Revelation 12,
Und da gehen wir nochmal zu Offenbarung 12, das ist, wenn er auf die Erde geworfen wird.
verse 9.
Offenbarung 12, Vers 9.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Right?
Richtig?
Because it says in Revelation 8:5, was cast to the earth. Right?
In Offenbarung 8, Vers 5 sagt es ja, dass es auf die Erde geworfen wurde.
Yes, because the cherubims, they are these hot
These
coals.
hot coals, right?
Weil die Cherubim sind diese heißen Kohlen.
Right? So we all see that, how it's linking the fire and the brimstone with the lions in the den, right?
Wenn wir das sehen, wie es den Feuer und Schwefel mit den Löwen in der Löwengrube
Satan
verbindet.
is as a roaring lion looking to whom he may devour, right?
Satan ist wie ein brüllender Löwe und er schaut, wen er verschlingen kann.
Everybody follow, right?
Jeder folgen?
So Babylon is persecuting here, but when you get to the end, Satan changes now, and he takes on the role of radical Islam, and he comes down, and with great wrath he comes down, right? It says,
Babylon verfolgt hier und hier verändert sich dann Satan und er nimmt jetzt die Rolle von dem radikalen Islam und er kommt hier herunter mit großem Zorn.
and what is that wrath?
Und was ist dieser große Zorn?
Yes, it's marking the 7 last plagues, right?
Markiert die 7 letzten Plagen.
Okay, it's the second harvest where he puts in the sickle,
Das ist
right?
die zweite Ernte, wo er die Sichel hineinwirft.
Okay, so this is, let's put it up here. Revelation 9:1, right?
Das ist Offenbarung 9, Vers 1.
But if you go back to Revelation 9,
Gehen wir nochmal zurück zu Offenbarung 9
you go to verse 11,
und geht zu Vers 11.
because this angel, when he falls from heaven, is given the key of the bottomless pit to open it, right?
Weil dieser Engel, der vom Himmel kommt, dem wird dieser Schlüssel von dem bodenlosen Abgrund gegeben, um ihn zu öffnen.
Because the Christ comes down from heaven there with the key in his hand, and he locks up Satan in the pit, right?
Und Christus kommt ja hier vom Himmel mit diesem Schlüssel und er schließt Satan in dieser Grube ein.
So Satan comes down from heaven with great wrath, and just remind us of this point, just go to Revelation 19.
Und Satan kommt dann herunter mit großem Zorn und gehen wir jetzt, um uns zu erinnern, zur Offenbarung 19.
So this is Christ coming down in Revelation 19,
Das ist jetzt, wenn Christus herunterkommt in Offenbarung 19,
verse 17.
Vers 17.
And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven. So how does he say it?
Wie sagte das?
With a loud voice, right?
Mit einer lauten Stimme.
This is the angel of Revelation 10 and the angel of Revelation 18,
Das ist
right?
der Engel von Offenbarung 10 und der Engel von Offenbarung 18.
Right? And he says, come and gather yourselves together to the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains. Who's eating the flesh of those people?
Wer ist das Fleisch von diesen Leuten?
Sorry?
The fowls or the lions.
The lions is the point,
Die
right?
Vögel oder die Löwen.
Right? So he's now feeding the kings and all those to those lions, which is the fire and brimstone, right?
Er füttert jetzt die Könige und all diejenigen zu diesen Vögeln, was die Löwen sind.
But then when we read the very next chapter, in chapter 20, verse 1,
Wenn wir aber im nächsten Kapitel lesen, Kapitel 20 und Vers 1,
it's just a repeat and enlarge,
das
right?
ist nur eine Wiederholung und Erweiterung.
It says, and I saw an angel come down from heaven. That's the angel in Revelation 19, right? Christ.
Das ist dieser Engel in Offenbarung 19, Christus.
Having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand, and he laid hold of the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So he binds him as soon as he's devoured these kings and captains, right?
Also er bindet ihn, sobald er diese Könige und Kapitäne eben verzehrt hat.
Right? There's a restraint put on him, right?
Da wird eine Einschränkung über ihn gelegt.
But when you go to Revelation 9,
Wenn wir zur Offenbarung 9 gehen,
doesn't mean that he can't do anything anymore, because it tells you what he's allowed to do, right?
das bedeutet jetzt nicht, dass er nichts mehr tun kann. Es sagt uns, was ihm erlaubt ist zu tun.
Because when Satan is completely restrained there, it's marking the deadly wound on the papacy,
Weil
right?
wenn Satan komplett gezügelt ist, das markiert die Todeswunde auf das Papsttum.
But Islam is loose to do a certain work,
Und
right?
der Islam, der wird gelöst, um ein bestimmtes Werk zu tun.
And this is what happened at 9/11. Islam was restrained and then loosed,
Und das
right?
geschah auch am 11. September. Der Islam wurde gezügelt, also gelöst, aber auch gezügelt.
Okay, so when just to get this point, when the lions are eating the flesh, what event is it
Also wenn die Löwen
in
das
relation
Fleisch,
to Revelation 9?
wenn die Löwen das Fleisch essen, welches Ereignis ist das in Bezug auf Offenbarung 9?
When they're eating the flesh, what is it?
Also wenn sie das Fleisch essen, was ist das?
That's the first and the third war there, right?
It's not the first war, it's the third war, right? It's the end, right?
Das ist die dritte Wehe, weil das
Because
ja
it's
das
a
Ende.
waymark and we're to separate the end from the beginning,
Es
right?
gibt ja die Wegmarke und wir müssen das Ende vom Anfang trennen.
Okay, so this is the third war,
Das
right?
ist die dritte Wehe.
When the third war ends, what now begins?
Wenn die dritte Wehe endet, was fängt dann an?
The first war, right? It's
Die
a
erste.
repeating cycle, right?
Die erste Wehe, das ist ein wiederholender Zyklus.
Okay, now go to Revelation 9, verse 11.
Gehen wir jetzt zur Offenbarung 9 und Vers 11.
It says, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue his name is Apollyon, which is the destroyer, right?
Das bedeutet der Zerstörer.
Right? So right here, Revelation 9:1, you also have Revelation 9:11. The destroying angel does his work and then he's restrained, right?
Also wir haben Offenbarung 9 Vers 1, aber auch Offenbarung 9 Vers 11 und da macht der zerstörerische Engel sein Werk und wird dann gezügelt.
Right? He's restrained and it now tells you what the restraining work is, right?
Er wird gezügelt und jetzt sagt es, was dieses eingeschränkte Werk ist.
Okay, but when you come to verse 4, right?
Wenn ihr zu Vers 4 geht,
Historically, right, it's marking the work of Abu Bakr.
das markiert historisch das Werk von Abu Bakr.
But I just want to remind you, go to Daniel 11 verse 31.
Und um euch zu erinnern, gehen wir zu Daniel 11, Vers 31,
So nobody stumbles at these thoughts.
damit niemand über diese Gedanken stolpert.
Daniel 11:31 it says, "An arm shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination and make it desolate." Right? At the end of the world, how many events is that?
Am Ende der Welt, wie viele Ereignisse sind das?
It's one event, right?
Das ist ein
But in
Ereignis.
history, how many events was there?
Aber in der Geschichte, wie viele Ereignisse waren dort?
At least 3, right?
Zumindest 3.
Okay, so when you go back to Revelation 9 and verse 4,
Wenn wir zurück zur Offenbarung 9 und Vers 4 gehen,
it says, and it was commanded them. Who's them?
wer sind sie? Oder ihnen?
The locusts, right?
Die Heuschrecken.
And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth. So what's been placed upon them here?
Was wird hier auf sie gelegt?
A restraint, right?
Eine Einschränkung.
It was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads, right? So, in history, this was the work of Abu Bakr, right?
In der Geschichte war das Werk von Abu Bakr.
Okay? But then when you go to verse 5,
Wenn ihr aber zu Vers 5 geht,
it says, and to them, the same group, right?
ihnen, also dieselbe Gruppe.
It was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. So where does verse 5 bring you to?
Wohin bringt dich Vers 5?
What is verse 5 marking?
Was markiert Vers 5?
Sorry?
The first.
The first woe, right?
Die erste Wehe.
Right, and the first woe begins here,
Die
right?
erste Wehe fängt hier an.
Yes?
Ja?
Okay, but I want you to see is verse 4, the work of Abu Bakr, also is linked directly to verse 5,
Ich möchte euch sehen lassen,
at the end of the world.
am Ende der Welt, Vers 4, das Werk von Abu Bakr auch direkt verbunden ist mit Vers 5.
Now, if we were to take our line, right, and do this, right, 1989, got 9/11, what's this waymark here?
Wenn wir unsere Linie nehmen, 1989, 11. September, welche Wegmarke ist das hier? 2014.
Okay, no, we're not at the end yet, right?
Wir sind noch nicht da, ganz am Ende.
So, who invaded Iraq and Syria and all that in 2014?
Wer ist in Irak und Syrien und so weiter in 2014 eingedrungen?
Sorry?
Who is that?
No. Okay, ISIS. And who was their leader?
Die ISIS, und wer war ihr Führer?
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, right?
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
Right, so it shows you there, right, and you just put it there, you got Abu Bakr, right?
Also es zeigt uns, da haben wir Abu Bakr.
And it shows you that verses 4 and 5 go hand in hand together, right?
Es zeigt uns, dass Verse 4 und 5 Hand in Hand zusammengehen.
And not only that, because, go back to verse 4,
Nicht nur das, sondern geht nochmal zurück zu Vers 4.
it says, it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So the command that's given them here is in relation to what?
Der Befehl, der ihnen hier gegeben wird, ist in Bezug auf was?
Yes, but just it's in relation to the seal,
Das ist
right?
in Bezug auf das Siegel.
Right? Okay, so go now to Revelation 7.
Geht jetzt zur Offenbarung 7.
Verse 1.
Vers 1.
You see pretty much the exact same language here.
Und hier könnt ihr sehen, das ist ziemlich dieselbe Sprache.
It says, and after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the what? The seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God in their foreheads. What do we see?
Was können wir sehen? Bis Vers 3.
Same description as Revelation.
Yes, it's practically the same, right?
Dieselbe Einschränkung wie in Offenbarung 9.
So these four, okay, let's begin with this point. The four winds, where do we see the four winds in the book of Daniel?
Wo sehen wir die 4 Winde im Buch Daniel?
In Daniel chapter 7. So keep your place there, go to Daniel 7.
In Daniel 7. Haltet euren Finger hier und geht zu Daniel 7.
In Daniel 7 is a deeper illustration of the Sunday law, right?
Daniel 7 ist eine tiefere Darstellung des Sonntagsgesetzes.
In verse 1.
Vers 1.
In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed, and he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. Right? It's the time of trouble, the Sunday law, right?
Das ist die Zeit der Trübsal, das Sonntagsgesetz.
Yes, Sister White says these beasts came up in a time of trouble, conquest, revolutions.
Und White sagt, dass diese 4 Tiere kamen auf in einer Zeit der Trübsal, wo Siege, also Eroberung und Revolution waren.
So, she says, that time of trouble spoken is not the time of trouble that is in the 7 last plagues, but a short while before while Christ is in the sanctuary.
Und White sagt, dass diese Zeit der Trübsal ist nicht die 7 letzten Plagen, sondern eine kurze Zeit zuvor, wenn Christus noch im Heiligtum ist.
Where is he?
Wo ist er?
In the sanctuary.
Im
And
Heiligtum.
then it says, at that time, right,
Und es sagt, zu dieser Zeit,
trouble will be coming on the earth,
da wird Trübsal auf die Erde kommen.
yet the nations shall be angry,
Die
right?
Nationen werden zornig sein.
Yet what?
Aber
Held in check so as not to prevent the work of the third angel, right?
in Schach gehalten werden, um nicht das Werk des 3. Engels zu behindern.
Okay, so we know that in history, 1848, right,
Wir wissen, dass in der Geschichte in 1848,
it was marking this point, right?
das hat ihr diesen Punkt markiert.
And the pioneers understood that this is where the work of the angel of Revelation 10 was to go forward.
Und die Pioniere haben verstanden, dass das die Zeit war, wo der Engel aus Offenbarung 10 vorwärts gehen sollte.
And the work of the angel of Revelation 10 is the first angel's message,
Und das
right?
Werk von dem Engel von Offenbarung 10 ist die erste Engelsbotschaft.
Which is the third angel's message,
Das ist auch die 3. Engelsbotschaft.
right? Because the third angel's message just repeats the first and second, right, in order.
Die Engelsbotschaft wiederholt nochmal die erste und zweite in der Reihenfolge.
Okay, we know that Christ, when he went into the sanctuary here, what's it marking?
Wir wissen, wenn Christus in das Heiligtum hier einging, was markiert das?
Cleansing.
It's not the Day of Atonement here. It's the,
The cleansing.
when he goes into the temple, when he begins his Revelation 18, right?
So, er geht in den Tempel, wenn er seinen Dienst anfängt, das ist Offenbarung 18.
Right? 2 temple cleansings, in like manner, 2 distinct calls. Revelation 18, 2 times, right?
2 Tempelreinigungen und auf dieselbe Weise diese 2 Aufrufe, Offenbarung 18.
So you have the angel of Revelation 18 beginning work marked there. Babylon is fallen,
Also
right?
man hat das Werk von Offenbarung 18 hier anfangend, also Babylon ist gefallen.
Right, so the 4 winds are held, right?
Die 4 Winde sind gehalten.
4 winds are held because, go to your notes now.
Die 4 Winde sind gehalten und gehen wir jetzt zu den Notizen.
And the first quote.
Das erste Zitat.
I saw 4 angels who had a work to do on the earth and were on their way to accomplish it. What were they on their way to do?
Auf welchem Weg waren sie, um was zu tun?
They're on their way to loose the 4 winds,
Sie
right?
waren auf ihrem Weg, die 4 Winde zu lösen.
Jesus was clothed with priestly garments. Why? Where is he?
Warum? Wo ist er?
He's in the sanctuary, right?
Er ist im Heiligtum.
Okay. He gazed in pity on the remnant, then raised his hands, and with a voice of deep pity cried, My blood, Father, my blood, my blood, my blood. Then I saw an exceeding bright light. Now, which angel is the exceeding bright light?
Welcher Engel ist das überaus helle Licht?
Yeah, it's Revelation 18. It's also Revelation 10.
Offenbarung 18 und auch Offenbarung 10.
Right? So this one, one you see, comes here at the beginning and it's also at the end, right? When it's fully understood.
Deswegen er kommt hier am Anfang und aber auch hier am Ende, wenn es vollständig verstanden wird.
Then I saw an exceeding bright light come from God, who sat upon the great white throne, and was shed all about Jesus. Then I saw an angel fly with a commission from Jesus, swiftly flying to the 4 angels who had a work to do in the earth, and waving something up and down in his hand. So there's an angel flying, and he's got something in his hand, right?
Da fliegt ein Engel und er hat etwas in seiner Hand.
Yes?
Ja?
Right. And crying with a loud voice. So it's an angel flying, crying with a loud voice with something in his hand.
Da ist ein Engel, der fliegt und er ruft mit einer lauten Stimme und hat etwas in seiner Hand.
And he says, hold, 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 until the servants of God are sealed in their forehead. So that's these 4 winds being held here, right?
Das sind diese 4 Winde, die hier gehalten werden.
So the nations are angry, yet held in check, so as not to prevent the work of this exceeding bright light.
Die
Right?
Nationen sind zornig, aber sie werden in Schach gehalten, damit sie nicht das Werk dieses überaus hellen Lichtes behindern.
Right?
Richtig?
Okay. Next paragraph.
Nächster Absatz.
I asked my accompanying angel the meaning of what I heard and what the 4 angels were about to do. He said to me that it was God that restrained the powers, and that he gave his angels charge over the things on the earth, that the 4 angels had power from God to hold the 4 winds, and that they were about to let them go. But while their hands were loosening, and the 4 winds were about to blow, the merciful eye of Jesus gazed on the remnant that were not sealed, and he raised his hands to the Father and pleaded with him that he had spilled his blood for them. Then another angel was commissioned to fly swiftly to the 4 angels and bid them hold until the servants of God were sealed with the seal of the living God in their foreheads. Right? So, go back now to Revelation 9,
Geht jetzt zurück zur Offenbarung 9,
verse 4.
Vers 4.
So, here's this restraint, right?
Hier ist diese Einschränkung.
It was commanded them. This is this angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying, hold, right?
Es wurde ihm befohlen, das ist dieser Engel, der in der Mitte des Himmels fliegt und sagt, halte.
It was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Right? So, for instance, at this point here, right,
Zum Beispiel in diesem Punkt hier,
which people would have the seal of God in their foreheads?
welche Leute hätten das Siegel Gottes an ihren Stirn?
What would it mean?
Was würde das bedeuten?
I mean, there are 2 types, right? Adventism, the real seal, and the
Yes.
Gentiles have the seal of promise.
Okay, the seal of promise, right?
Also die Adventisten, die hätten dann das zweite Siegel und die die anderen hätten das Siegel der Verheißung.
Okay, but the natural teaches us the spiritual. Go back to history.
Aber das Natürliche lehrt uns das Geistliche, geht in die Geschichte zurück.
Who was Abu Bakr not hurting?
Also wen hat Abu Bakr nicht geschadet?
Sabbath keepers, right?
Sabbathalter.
What is the Sabbath?
Was ist der Sabbat?
Seals.
It's the seal,
Es
right?
ist das Siegel.
So by context here, right, it's referring to all those that are in present truth keeping the Sabbath, right, and going through the sealing process, right?
Also in dem Kontext hier stellt es all diejenigen dar, die in der gegenwärtigen Wahrheit sind und den Sabbat halten und die in diesem Versiegelungsprozess sich befinden.
Okay, and as long as they stay keeping that Sabbath, right, they can't touch them, right?
Und solange sie darin bleiben, dass sie den Sabbat halten, können sie nicht anrühren.
Because in Revelation 7, he's restrained them, right?
Weil in Offenbarung 7 hat er sie gezügelt.
And here in Revelation 9, it tells you about that restraint, right?
Hier in Offenbarung 9 erzählt es jetzt über diese Einschränkung.
Right? They can only, because it says, verse 5,
Es sagt in Vers 5,
and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was the torment of a scorpion when they striketh a man. So they can't kill the nations, they can't destroy the nations yet,
sie
right?
können nicht die Nationen töten oder zerstören,
But they can torment them,
aber
right?
sie können sie quälen.
Okay, and this is what they did. They brought great fear upon the nations back in this time.
Und das haben sie damals getan. Sie haben große Furcht über die Nationen gebracht.
And they basically, you know, it says that the Catholics, they either converted or they cleaved their skulls, right?
Und es hat gesagt, also entweder haben sich die Katholiken bekehrt oder ihr Schädel wurde abgehauen.
Right. So anyway, I just want us to see that point. But if we go to the next quote.
Ich wollte, dass wir diesen Punkt sehen, aber gehen wir jetzt zu dem nächsten Zitat.
It says, there is a spirit of desperation, of war and bloodshed, and that spirit will increase until the very close of time. Now, Sister White's talking about something back in her time, but it's prefiguring something at the end of the world.
Ellen White spricht über etwas in ihrer Zeit damals, aber es schattet etwas am Ende der Welt voraus.
What's this time of desperation, of war and bloodshed?
Was ist diese Zeit der Verzweiflung von Krieg
That's
und
going to increase.
Blutvergießen, die zunehmen wird?
The wars and rumors of war, the shaking of the earth, right?
Die Kriege und Kriegsgerüchte, die Erschütterung der Erde.
And then she says, just as soon as the people of God are sealed in their foreheads, it is not any seal or mark that can be seen, but a settling into the truth both intellectually and spiritually that they cannot be moved. Which truth is it they've got to settle into?
In welche Wahrheit sollen sie sich gründen?
Present truth.
Yes, that's true. Yes. The exceeding bright light,
Die
right?
gegenwärtige Wahrheit, die dritte Engelsbotschaft, das ist das übers helle Licht.
Okay, so just as soon as God's people are sealed and prepared for the shaking, right? So when you're sealed and prepared for the shaking, which shaking is it talking about?
Wenn du versiegelt bist und vorbereitet bist für die Erschütterung, über welche Erschütterung spricht
I know we
es?
spoke about this recently.
7 aspects.
Yeah.
Die 7 letzten
Well, in this sense, it would be this. Yes, I guess, but it's talking about the shaking of the heavens and the earth,
Er
right?
spricht ja über die Erschütterung von Himmel und Erde.
Because, for instance, the first group here, right?
Und zum Beispiel die erste Gruppe hier,
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3. You come to this point, they're sealed, right?
wenn man zu diesem Punkt kommt, sind sie versiegelt.
And what now shakes?
Was wird jetzt erschüttert?
The heavens and the earth,
Der
right?
Himmel und die Erde.
Okay, but I would also agree, but that's their end, but then it would also mark here, right?
Also damit würde ich auch übereinstimmen, dass es ihr Ende und dann würde es auch hier das markieren.
Okay, and when you go to Ezekiel 37, what's taking place in this time period?
Wenn man zu Hesekiel 37 geht, was findet in dieser Zeitspanne statt?
A shaking, right?
Eine Erschütterung.
And it has to be this what he's referring to, because this is the time where everybody's going to be shaken out. They can be shaken out, right?
Und das muss über diese Zeit sprechen, weil da wird jeder herausgeschüttelt werden, der herausgeschüttelt werden kann.
So it says, just as soon as God's people are sealed and prepared for the shaking, it will come. Indeed, it has begun already. The judgments of God are now upon the land to give us warning that we may know what is coming. So which judgments come upon the land to give us warning?
Welche Gerichte sind über das Land gekommen, um uns Warnung zu geben?
Wars and rumors of
The
wars.
wars and rumors of wars, right?
Kriege und
They are
Kriegsgerüchte
signs for us, right?
sind für uns Zeichen.
And they tell us what's coming in their order,
Und sie
right?
sagen uns, was kommt in ihrer Reihenfolge.
And if you just go to the next quote, you'll see this very point,
Gehen
right?
wir zum nächsten Zitat, da sehen wir genau diesen Punkt.
We are living in the time of the end, referencing the Sunday law, right?
Wir leben in der Zeit des Endes, das bezieht sich auf das Sonntagsgesetz.
Here, time of the end.
Zeit des Endes.
Babylon is fallen, right?
Babylon ist gefallen.
The fast fulfilling signs of the times declare that the coming of Christ is near at hand. So, which signs?
Welche Zeichen?
The signs of Matthew, Mark and Luke,
Die
right?
Zeichen von Matthäus, Markus und Lukas.
The days in which we live are solemn and important. The Spirit of God is gradually but surely being withdrawn from the earth. Where does that take you to?
Wohin bringt dich das?
Come on, we've just not 10 minutes ago discussed this point.
Vor 10 Minuten hatten wir diesen Punkt besprochen.
Can you repeat your question?
The sentence there, the Spirit of God is gradually but surely being withdrawn from the earth.
Also dieser Satz hier, der Geist Gottes wird allmählich oder sicher von der Erde
Go back to the first quote. Yes, go back to the first quote.
Gehen wir nochmal zurück zu dem ersten Zitat,
Second paragraph.
zweiter Absatz.
I asked my accompanying angel the meaning of what I heard and what the four angels were about to do. He said to me that it was God that restrained the powers and that he gave his angels charge over things on the earth, that the four angels had power from God to hold the four winds, that they were about to let them go. Right? So the four winds are loosed. What does it mark?
Wenn die 4 Winde gelöst sind, was markiert das?
Spirit of God is taken.
Yeah, the Spirit of God is taken away from the earth. Right?
Wenn der Geist Gottes von der Erde weggenommen wird.
So when there's a restraint put on that, right, it means that it's not fully left us yet, right?
Wenn eine Einschränkung darauf gesetzt wird, dann bedeutet das, dass es noch nicht vollständig uns verlassen hat.
Okay? So when we go back to the quote from 9 Thessalonians 11,
Gehen wir nochmal zurück zu dem Zitat von 9t 11.
it says, "We are living in the time of the end. The fast fulfilling signs of the times declare that the coming of Christ is near at hand." So it's pointing forward to the second coming, right?
Es weist vorwärts auf die Wiederkunft.
The days in which we live are solemn and important. The Spirit of God is gradually but surely being withdrawn from the earth. Plagues and judgments are already falling on the despisers of the grace of God. So when the Sunday law begins, what's already falling?
Wenn das Sonntagsgesetz anfängt, was fällt schon?
Plagues and judgments, right?
Plagen und Gerichte.
The calamities by land and sea, the unsettled state of society, the alarms of war are portentous. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. Right? So when this happens, it's forecasting what's coming at the end, right?
Wenn das geschieht, das sagt schon voraus, was dann am Ende kommen wird.
It's forecasting the second coming, right?
Das sagt dann die Wiederkunft voraus.
Where's this second coming prefigured?
Wo wird die Wiederkunft vorausgeschattet?
Seventh plague, right?
7. Plage.
Right? The harvest begins right here, right? That's what I'm saying. This is this shaking time, right?
Die Ernte fängt hier an. Das ist, was ich sage, die Erschütterungszeit.
Okay? Because it's the final crisis,
Weil
right?
es ist die finale Krise.
Because just go to the last paragraph on this quote.
Geht zu dem letzten Absatz von diesem Zitat.
The agencies of evil are combining their forces. What are they doing?
Was tun sie?
What's combining their forces mean?
Bedeutet, sie sammeln ihre Kräfte.
Yes, the threefold union, right? They're coming together, right?
Das ist die dreifältige Union, die jetzt zusammenkommt.
The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They are strengthening for the last great crisis. Great changes are soon to take place in our world, and the final movements will be rapid ones. So go to the next quote.
Zum nächsten Zitat.
Christ's words had been spoken in the hearing of a large number of people, but when he was alone, Peter, John, James, and Andrew came to him as he sat upon the Mount of Olives. "Tell us," they said, "when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world?" Jesus did not answer his disciples by taking up separately the destruction of Jerusalem and the great day of his coming. He mingled the description of these two events. So what two events did he mingle?
Welche 2 Ereignisse hat vermischt?
Destruction of Jerusalem and the second coming, right?
Zerstörung von Jerusalem und die Wiederkunft.
Had he opened to his disciples future events as he beheld them, they would have been unable to endure the sight. In mercy to them, he blended the description of the two great crises. So what's the last crisis?
Was ist die letzte Krise?
The destruction of Jerusalem and the second coming of Christ.
Die
Right?
Zerstörung von Jerusalem und die Wiederkunft Christi.
It's the latter rain, right?
Das ist der Spätregen.
Because Christ comes as the latter rain,
Weil
right?
Christus kommt als der Spätregen.
So one group gets destroyed and one group gets blessed,
Die
right?
eine Gruppe wird zerstört, die andere Gruppe wird gesegnet.
It's the blessing and the cursing, right?
Das ist der Segen und der Fluch.
It says, when he referred to the destruction of Jerusalem, his prophetic words reach beyond that event to the final conflagration in that day when the Lord shall rise out of his place to punish the world for their iniquity, when the earth shall disclose her blood and shall no more cover her slain. So just let's go to Isaiah 26,
Gehen wir zu Jesaja 26,
because that's where that's taken from.
weil daher ist das entnommen.
If I remember rightly. Yes. Verse 20.
Vers 20.
It says, Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain. Right? If you just go to verse 9.
Wenn ihr zu Vers 9 geht.
With my soul have I desired thee in the night, yea, with my spirit within me will I seek thee early. For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. Right? So, marking 9/11, right?
Markiert den 11.
And
September.
those great buildings are brought down. The inhabitants of the earth will learn righteousness.
Wenn
Right?
die großen Gebäude niedergebracht werden, werden die Einwohner der Erde Gerechtigkeit lernen.
Yes? So, you can take it from this is also this, right?
Und man kann es auch nehmen, das hier ist auch das hier.
So it doesn't matter which way you go, you come to 9/11, right?
Ganz gleich, wo man hinkommt, man kommt immer zum 11. September.
Okay? It's the day of the Lord,
Das ist
right?
der Tag des Herrn.
The day of the Lord is the destruction of Jerusalem, immediately followed by the destruction of Babylon,
Der
right?
Tag des Herrn ist die Zerstörung von Jerusalem, sofort gefolgt von der Zerstörung Babylons.
Destruction of the cities,
Die
right?
Zerstörung der Städte.
And 9 Testimonies 11 is speaking about the destruction on New York, right?
Und im neuen Band der Zeugnisse 11 spricht über die Zerstörung von New York,
Where great buildings are going to be brought down,
wo
right?
große Gebäude niedergebracht werden.
Right? She takes those great buildings and likes it to the destruction of Jerusalem, but also to the destruction of Babylon.
Und sie
Right?
nimmt diese großen Gebäude und vergleicht es mit der Zerstörung von Jerusalem, aber auch von Babylon.
Because they're directly linked together. One immediately follows the other.
Weil
Right?
sie direkt miteinander verbunden sind. Das eine folgt sofort dem anderen.
Right? And we can see, just by understanding this point in Revelation 9 and verse 1, and understanding the end from the beginning,
Also wir können das sehen, nur von diesem Verständnis von Offenbarung 9, Vers 1 und dieses Verständnis von dem Ende von Anfang an.
that it's Islam that does that work. Right?
Der Islam ist, der dieses Werk
These
tut.
great fireballs that come down and smash the cities.
Diese
Right?
großen Feuerbälle, die herunterkommen und die Städte zerstören.
Right? So the papacy is restrained here, deadly wound.
Und das Papsttum wird hier gezügelt, die tödliche Wunde.
Satan devours and eats them. It's the work of the lion's den.
Satan verzehrt und isst sie auf und das ist das Werk der
But he
Löwengrube.
switches now and he jumps into this radical Islam, and the key is open to him. Radical Islam is allowed to come out of that pit and begin this slow work in this time of peace, leading up to when it strikes its first time here, right?
Also, aber Satan wechselt dann und er springt jetzt sozusagen in den radikalen Islam und ihm wird jetzt der Schlüssel gegeben, um aus dem bodenlosen Abgrund herauszukommen und fängt jetzt sein Werk an und das in dieser Zeit des Friedens und das führt dann zu seinem ersten Anschlag hier.
Okay, and the first time it struck was the Battle of Nicomedia.
Und der erste Anschlag
Against the
war
West.
dieser Kampf in Nikodemia gegen den Westen.
Right? So it marks the beginning of the first war. Right?
Das ist der Anfang der ersten Wehe.
And we understand that goes to this point, right?
Und wir verstehen, dass das bis zu diesem Punkt hier geht.
Those 5 months, right?
Diese 5 Monate.
5 months are parallel to the first 5 plagues.
Die 5 Monate sind eine Parallele zu den ersten 5 Plagen.
Okay, but okay, now I want to bring some other thoughts in. Now go to this next quote.
Ich möchte noch ein paar Gedanken da hinzufügen. Gehen wir zu dem nächsten Zitat.
It says, "Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll." Okay, so it's referencing the flying roll, right?
Das bezieht sich auf die fliegende Buchrolle.
Which we know is the curse.
Wir wissen, das ist der Fluch.
We know is this exceeding bright light, right? It's speaking about the same thing,
Wir
right?
wissen, dass das über das helle Licht, das spricht über dasselbe.
Because the angel of Revelation 10, which angel is it?
Weil der Engel aus Offenbarung 10, welcher Engel ist das?
Seeing angel.
First angel.
It's the first angel,
Das
right?
ist der erste Engel.
Okay, so just go to the next paragraph.
Geht zum nächsten Absatz.
The angel is represented as flying through the midst of heaven with a roll in his hand. Now, where did we already read this morning?
Wo haben wir das heute Morgen schon gelesen?
Fly swiftly to say hold.
Yeah, the angel that flies through the midst of heaven with this writing in his hand saying, Hold, 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 right?
Dieser Engel, der in der Mitte des Himmels fliegt mit diesem Schriftstück in der Hand und er sagt, halte, 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 halte.
So the angel is represented as flying through the midst of heaven with a roll in his hand on which are written the deeds of our daily life. God bears long with the children of men, but there is a time coming when he will cease to bear with them. So if those 4 winds were allowed to loose there, it would be too late. This book, this roll would condemn every one of us, right?
Wenn diese 4 Winde hier erlaubt wären, gelöst zu werden, dann würde diese Rolle, dieses Buch jeden von uns verdammen.
But he says, hold until they're sealed,
Aber er
right?
sagt, halte, bis sie versiegelt
He's
sind.
going to give them a chance to understand what's written on that roll,
Er wird
right?
ihnen eine Möglichkeit geben, dass sie verstehen, was auf dieser Buchrolle geschrieben steht.
And it's, sorry, Lance, and okay, I'll make the point in a minute. What do you want to say?
Because in Revelation 7 it says he has the seal of the living God, right, this angel, but that's why it says he has this roll in his hand. So
Yes.
if you can see, this roll is what seals you. In Revelation 10, the pioneer said was the
Yes,
sealing
it was the
message.
sealing message that was to go forward in 1848, right?
Also in Offenbarung 7 sagt es, dass er das Siegel des lebendigen Gottes in der Hand hat, aber in dem Zitat. In dem Zitat sagt es, dass es eben diese Rolle war und deswegen die Rolle ist es, was dich versiegelt und deswegen auch in Offenbarung 10 haben die Pioniere verstanden, dass das die Versiegelungsbotschaft ist,
Die 1848 vorwärts.
die hier vorwärts ging, in 1848.
Okay, so let's begin this paragraph again.
Fangen wir nochmal mit dem Absatz an.
The angel is represented as flying through the midst of heaven with a roll in his hand, on which are written the deeds of our daily life. God bears long with the children of men, but there is a time coming when he will cease to bear with them. God wants them to get under the cover of his wings. Jesus is pleading his blood in our behalf, but Satan is standing at his right hand, resisting every effort in our behalf. Okay, so Christ is in the sanctuary. Who's standing next to him?
Christus ist im Heiligtum und wer steht neben ihm?
Satan, right?
Satan.
Prophetically speaking, right?
Prophetisch gesprochen.
May God help us to humble our hearts before it shall be forever too late to make wrong right. Now, last night we read a quote when 1 Testimonies 2:68, when this begins, what happens?
Gestern Abend haben wir ein Zitat gelesen, wenn 1. Band der Zeugnisse 268 geschieht, was geschieht dann?
Put away their little difficulties and press together.
Yeah, they press together, so they become what?
Sie legen ihre kleinen Schwierigkeiten beiseite und kommen jetzt zusammen oder pressen zusammen. Und was werden sie jetzt?
They act with discretion and wisdom. So wise.
Yes, but the point is they're becoming like humble little children, right?
Also sie werden jetzt wie demütige kleine Kinder.
So it's this slow process, these different birth pangs, right?
Das ist dieser langsame Prozess, diese verschiedenen Geburtswehen.
So this is like you're now in the belly in the first process, and then the next process, and finally it brings you to come out of the belly, right?
Also das ist, wenn du hier im Bauch bist, und das ist jetzt der erste Prozess, der zweite, und dann führt es dich dahin, dass du schließlich aus dem Bauch kommen kannst.
Okay, so when is it forever too late?
Wann ist es für immer zu spät?
When Christ says it is
Done.
done,
Wenn
right?
Christus sagt, es ist geschehen.
Okay. So go to the next quote.
Zum nächsten Zitat.
The spirit who asked Zechariah, "What seest thou?" to which he answered, "I see a flying roll," also caused an angel to fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God, give glory to him. Let no glory be given to erring sinful men, for the hour of his judgment is come. Many indeed will not understand, but will stumble at the words contained in the roll." Why will they stumble at it?
Warum werden sie darüber stolpern?
Because it's the straight testimony,
Weil es das geradlinige Zeugnis ist.
right? It's basically, it's telling you the evil that's in your heart, and you have to step by step renounce that evil and draw closer to Christ,
Es
right?
sagt dir dann über das Böse, was in deinem Herzen ist, und du musst dann Schritt für Schritt diesem Bösen absagen und Christus näher kommen.
So, go to Revelation 11.
Gehen wir zur Offenbarung 11.
And in Revelation 11, what is it an illustration of? In relation to what we're studying, the answer.
Also in Offenbarung 11, von was ist das eine Darstellung in Bezug auf das, was wir studieren?
It's the second woe,
Das ist die
right?
zweite Wehe.
Okay, and this is the point, right? We have here, the first woe leads us up to the sixth plague,
Das ist
right?
der Punkt, diese erste Wehe führt uns zu der 6. Plage.
Right? Because if you just go back to Revelation 9, excuse me,
Nochmal zurück zur Offenbarung 9,
verse 13.
Vers 13.
In fact, let's begin in verse 12.
Fangen wir in Vers 12 an.
One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which is before God. So, which angel sounds?
Welcher Engel posaunt?
The sixth trumpet.
Die sechste Posaune.
And the trumpets are a type of
Die Posaunen sind
the plagues.
ein Typus für die
So what's
Plagen.
it a parallel to?
Was ist das also eine Parallele?
Sixth plague,
Zu
right?
der 6. Plage.
And it says, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels. So what's happening there?
Was geschieht hier?
What began to happen here?
Was fing hier an zu geschehen?
Four angels were loosed, right?
4 Engel wurden gelöst,
But held.
aber
right?
gehalten.
What's happening here?
Was geschieht hier?
They're loosed again,
Sie
right?
werden wieder gelöst.
But they're also restrained, right?
Sie sind
Because
auch-
they're not fully yet, right?
Gezügelt, weil es ist noch nicht vollständig.
Loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of men. So what are they allowed to do now?
Was wurden ihnen jetzt erlaubt zu tun?
Now to kill, right?
Zu töten.
Okay, and we know that there's this death decree also marked upon God's people here,
Und
right?
wir wissen, dass auch das Todesdekret über Gottes Volk hier markiert ist.
Okay, so when you go back to Revelation 11, which is an event that's happening parallel to the second woe.
Gehen wir zurück zur Offenbarung 11 und das ist ein Ereignis, was stattfindet, was parallel ist mit dieser zweiten Wehe.
Okay, because the point is that in 1 Kings 17, which is the story of Elijah, what does he do right here?
Der Punkt ist in 1. Könige 17, was die Geschichte von Elia ist. Was macht er hier?
Right, he shuts the heavens up for 3.5 years,
Er
right?
verschließt den Himmel für 3,5 Jahre.
Why does he do that?
Warum macht er das?
Because Ahab marries Jezebel, right?
Dieser falschen Ehe, weil Isabel heiratet.
Right? So it says you can't, there'll be a famine unless you receive my words,
Er
right?
sagt, da wird eine Hungersnot sein, es sei denn, dass ihr meine Worte erhält.
Okay, so what are his words in relation to what we've been studying this morning?
Was sind seine Worte in Bezug, was wir heute Morgen studiert haben?
Flying roll.
Sorry?
Flying roll.
Yes, the flying roll. So it's the first angel,
Die
right?
fliegende Buchrolle, also es ist der erste Engel.
So the first angel's message is the Elijah message that's going forward. And if you receive it, you're going to receive the manna. And if you don't receive it, it's going to be a famine, right?
Die erste Engelsbotschaft ist also die Elia-Botschaft und wenn du das erhältst, wirst du das Manna erhalten und wenn nicht, dann ist es eine Hungersnot für dich.
Okay, so when we come to the second woe, right?
Wenn wir zur zweiten Wehe kommen,
Let's read it, right? Verse 1.
lesen wir das in Offenbarung 11, Vers 1.
There was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. What event is this?
Welches Ereignis ist das?
The answer is in Matthew 24. Which event?
Die Antwort ist in Matthäus 24. Welches Ereignis?
What begins here?
Was fängt hier an?
Thank you. The Great Tribulation,
Die
right?
große Trübsalzeit,
Which is 1260.
die
Right?
1260 ist.
Beginning at the sixth plague, right?
Sie fängt an der 6. Plage an.
Okay, so verse 3.
Vers 3.
And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in what? Sackcloth, right?
Gekleidet in Sacktuch.
So they're prophesying now in sackcloth, just like Mordecai, and this is this work of sighing and crying, right?
Sie prophezeien jetzt in Sacktuch, so wie Mordecai. Das ist dieses Werk von Seufzen und Klagen.
These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth, and devoureth their enemies, and if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. Now, where does verse 4 take you to in the Old Testament?
Wohin bringt dich Vers 4 im Alten Testament?
To Zechariah, right?
Zu Zachariah.
The 2 olive
Die
trees, right?
2 Ölbäume.
And those 2 olive trees is the revelation, right?
2 Ölbäume ist die Offenbarung.
It's the exceeding bright light.
Es ist das überaus helle Licht.
So what I want you to see is that the exceeding bright light begins here, and then it's also marking it right here, right?
Also was ich euch sehen lassen möchte, ist, dass das überaus helle Licht hier anfängt, aber es ist auch hier markiert.
Because that's the revelation right there, right?
Weil das ist ja hier die Offenbarung.
And it's showing you as you humble yourself and come through these points, it's getting brighter and brighter, right?
Das zeigt dir, je mehr du dich demütigst und durch diese Punkte hindurch gehst, scheint es immer heller und heller.
Right? Because when you come down to this point,
Wenn du zu diesem Punkt herunterkommst,
what does the Lord show you right here?
was zeigt dir der Herr hier?
These 2 angels, right, or these 2 anointed ones, and it's this revelation that he gives,
Die
right?
2 Engel, diese 2 Gesagten, das ist die Offenbarung, die er dir gibt.
But you can see that the revelation is progressive, which is if you go back in the quotes, right,
Wir können sehen, dass diese Offenbarung progressiv ist. Und gehen wir nochmal zurück zu den Zitaten.
go to the second quote.
Geht zu dem zweiten Zitat.
It says there is a spirit of desperation, of war and bloodshed, and that spirit will increase until the very close of time. Just as soon as the people of God are sealed in their foreheads, it is not any seal or mark that can be seen, but a settling into the truth, both intellectually and spiritually, so they cannot be moved. So where do you start settling into that truth?
Wo fängst du an, in diese Wahrheit dich zu gründen?
Right at the beginning here, right?
Hier im Sonntagsgesetz am Anfang.
Because you have to receive this, you have to receive the first angel's message. You have to receive the manna,
Ja,
right?
du musst die erste Engelsbotschaft, das Manna, erhalten.
Because if you're not receiving it constantly, what does it say? Who has entire control over you?
Weil wenn du das nicht beständig erhältst, was sagt es? Wer hat vollständige Kontrolle über dich?
Satan, right?
Satan.
So, are we experiencing that?
Erfahren wir das?
We're in a type of this, right?
Wir sind ja in einem Typus davon.
Is it a constant advancement of truth?
Es
Right?
ist eine beständige Voranschreitung der Wahrheit.
So are we already receiving much of Daniel and Revelation?
Erhalten
Right?
wir schon viel von Daniel und Offenbarung.
Yes. And it's preparing us for this final point where he's going to speak plainly to us and give us that revelation, right?
Und das vorbereitet uns für diesen letzten Punkt, wenn er deutlich zu uns sprechen wird und die Offenbarung uns geben wird.
But in order to receive that revelation here, you have to go through this belly, these three belly experiences, right?
Aber damit du die Offenbarung hier erhalten kannst, musst du durch diesen Bauch gehen, diese 3 Baucheserfahrungen.
And every time you come to one of them, the revelation increases, right?
Jedes Mal, wenn du zu einem von ihnen ankommst, da nimmt die Offenbarung zu.
Right? And that's what we saw yesterday in the story of Josiah.
Das haben wir auch gestern gesehen in der Geschichte von Josia.
When he got here, they found the roll, right?
Als er hier ankam, da haben sie die Buchrolle
And they
gefunden.
began to understand, they began to get convicted about the sins of their fathers,
Und
right?
er hat dann angefangen, sie zu verstehen und überführt zu werden über die Sünden ihrer Väter.
Okay, so it's an increasing revelation that comes down to the very end, right?
Das ist eine zunehmende Offenbarung, die ja zunimmt bis zum Ende.
But at every stage, if you don't receive it, what will happen?
Aber an jeder Stufe, wenn du es nicht erhältst, was wird geschehen?
You'll go into darkness,
Du
right?
wirst in Finsternis gehen.
Okay, so go back to Revelation 11. We're not going to finish this now, but
Gehen wir zurück zu Offenbarung 11. Wir werden das jetzt nicht abschließen können.
Verse 6.
Vers 6.
It says, "These have power to shut heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will." So what's happening in this time period?
Was geschieht in dieser Zeitspanne hier?
Plagues are falling, right?
Plagen fallen.
Okay. So, okay, I guess we can go on to these further points tomorrow. But
Ich denke, die nächsten Punkte werden wir dann morgen anschauen.
But I wanted you to see the connection between these works of Satan, right?
Ich wollte euch diese Verbindung zeigen zwischen diesen Werken von Satan.
Okay. So, really, from the first woe all the way down to the third woe, it's a restraint, and then it just repeats again in the next Sunday law, right?
Also von der ersten bis zur dritten Wehe, da ist er he's restrained.
Is a work being done until he's restrained right here.
Wird ein Werk getan, bis er hier eingeschränkt wird, und hier wiederholt sich das einfach nochmal.
Right. So there's a lot of comparisons with the work that he does through Islam, and also with the work that he does through the threefold union.
Also es gibt einen Vergleich zwischen dem Werk, das er durch den Islam macht, und das Werk, was er durch die dreifältige Union macht.
For instance, what beast comes up here?
Zum Beispiel, welches Tier kommt hier herauf?
The two-horned beast.
Das zweihörnige Tier.
Time of peace, right?
Zeit des Friedens.
When Islam arose in 606, how did it arise?
Als der Islam 606 aufstieg, wie stieg es auf?
Peacefully, right?
Friedlich.
It says this in the Quran, right? We're to rise peaceful, but when our numbers are strong enough, then we strike, right?
Es sagt es im Koran, dass sie sollen friedlich aufsteigen, aber wenn die Zahlen, wenn sie größer werden, dann werden sie diesen Anschlag machen.
So they both arise peacefully there, but right here, they begin their destructive work, right?
Also sie steigen hier friedlich auf, aber hier fangen sie dann ihr zerstörerisches Werk an.
Right? And then they run parallel. One, it's just Satan jumping back and forward, using one to bolster the other,
Und
right?
das läuft dann parallel und Satan, springt dann einfach hin und her. One.
Uses one to. He's basically using both sides to bring about his plan,
Also er benutzt dann beide Seiten, um eben seinen Plan zustande zu bringen.
right? And at the same time, he's using the north and the south within the threefold union to achieve his goal.
Und zur selben Zeit benutzt er den Norden und Süden in der dreifältigen Union, um seine Pläne zu erreichen.
Right? So you can see how the Lord, very detailed, is giving us Satan's plan of attack and how we can avoid being deceived by that and destroyed by it. Right?
Und wir können also sehen, wie der Herr uns sehr detailreich Satans Angriffsplan aufzeigt und damit wir nicht verführt werden und zerstört werden.
Right?
Richtig?
Okay, let's close with.
Lasst uns mit Gebet abschließen. Dear Heavenly Father,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
I want to thank you for the study we could now have about Satan's plans,
ich danke dir für das Studium, was wir jetzt haben konnten über Satans Pläne,
and that you are overruling everything to your glory,
dass du alles überstimmen wirst zu deiner Herrlichkeit.
and help us that we would be among those that are settling into the truth,
Hilf uns, dass wir unter denjenigen sein mögen, die in der Wahrheit gefestigt werden,
that we walk on the right path,
dass wir auf dem richtigen Weg wandeln
and that you can prevent us, that we would not go into darkness and be destroyed.
und dass du uns bewahren mögest, dass wir nicht in die Finsternis gehen und dann zerstört werden.
And we want to ask for your help and strength on this day,
Wir bitten um deine Hilfe und deine Kraft an diesem Tag
and that we would claim your promises whenever Satan is attacking us.
und dass wir deine Verheißung in Anspruch nehmen, wenn immer Satan uns angreift.
And we want to thank you that you are faithful and that you will always send light and power to your people.
Und danke, dass du treu bist und dass du immer Licht und Kraft deinem Volk schicken wirst.
In Jesus' name, amen.
In Jesu Namen. Amen.
Ja.